Good evening, Dan. I have a story to tell you. Hey, I'm not sure anyone will believe me, but I need to tell this story. I work nights at an old cemetery on the outskirts of town. I took the job because I needed the money. I thought it would be simple, keeping the graves tidy, checking the mausoleums, making sure nothing got damaged. Quiet work. Easy money. I was completely wrong. The first night I arrived, the sun had already disappeared. The iron gate groaned when I pushed it open, a sound that made my skin crawl. The air was damp and cold, and the silence was heavier than anything I've ever felt. Not peaceful quiet. Wrong quiet. The kind that makes you feel like the world is holding its breath. Every step I took on the gravel echoed far too loudly, stretching into the distance. And the fog was already rolling in, curling around the gravestones. I started my round slowly. The older graves were covered in moss, leaning at odd angles, cracked with age. Some had patches of soil that looked freshly turned. I froze. No one else worked nights. I told myself it was just the wind or animals. But deep down I knew it wasn't. As I moved, the fog thickened. I could barely see past a few feet in front of me. The shadows between the graves seemed to stretch and twist. I started hearing whispers. Faint at first, almost like I was imagining it. Then clearer, my name, Lucas. I froze. My flashlight trembled in my hand. I spun around, nothing, just the fog. I told myself it was my imagination, a trick of the wind. But then the footsteps started. Slow, dragging. Following me, I ran. They kept pace. Every time I tried to hide behind a tree or gravestone, I could still hear them behind me. I tried to focus on my work, checking graves, straightening stones, marking plots. But the feeling of being watched never left. Shapes moved at the edge of my vision. Once I saw a shadow crouched in a mausoleum. When I looked again, it was gone. Then I saw him, the old gravekeeper, the man who disappeared weeks before. He stood atop a freshly opened grave, staring at me. Hollow eyes, pale face. He whispered, "They don't like it when you're here alone." Before I could say anything, he vanished. And then I realized the cemetery wasn't quiet. It was alive. The paths seemed to twist under my feet. Trees bent unnaturally. Fog rolled in thickly, curling around graves and blocking my way. I stumbled toward the older section. One grave caught my attention. The soil started moving violently and hands clawed up, trying to escape. I screamed and ran, flashlight swinging. Faces appeared in the fog. Hollow eyes, mouths stretched open in silent screams. I tripped over roots and fell into damp soil. The air grew heavier, colder, pressing down. Then I heard it, the dragging sound. Something moving across the stones, slow, deliberate, like coffins being pulled. I felt dozens of unseen eyes on me. The whispers grew louder, forming words I couldn't understand. I ran blindly. Graves shifted under my feet. Stones tilted as if reaching for me. I stumbled into a broken mausoleum door. The smell of decay hit me, stronger than anything I'd felt before. Shadows slid along the walls. My flashlight flickered. The fog wrapped around my legs, freezing me in place. I saw a small cherub statue, its face twisted in pain that hadn't been there before. It whispered my name. A shovel rose from the ground on its own, slowly, as if someone invisible was digging. I screamed, backing away, my hands trembling. I ran past graves that weren't there a moment ago. Paths looped back on themselves. Trees creaked and groaned. I stumbled into a mausoleum entrance. Inside, the air was thick, almost solid. Shadows moved along the walls. I felt the floor shake, like something under the earth was moving. I tripped and fell in freshly turned soil. Cold, invisible hands gripped my shoulders, tugging me down. I clawed at the earth, screaming, finally breaking free. I ran. The fog clung to me. Shadows followed me. Faces appeared and vanished in the mist. At one point, I hid behind a large, broken gravestone, trying to catch my breath. I could hear whispers all around me now, echoing in every direction, coming from everywhere and nowhere. They spoke in languages I didn't know, low, guttural tones, hissing, mocking. I could hear the dragging sound again, slower this time, deliberate. Something big moving in the distance. I crawled through the fog, bruised and exhausted. My flashlight was flickering. I felt eyes on me from every shadow. Then I saw movement in a mausoleum window, a face pressed against the glass, pale and expressionless, staring straight at me. I wanted to run, but my legs were heavy, my body trembling from fear. Finally, I found a small path leading out. I ran, stumbling, tripping over roots, falling into loose soil. The cemetery seemed to stretch endlessly. Graves moved, paths looped back. I swear, some tombstones leaned toward me, almost trying to block me. I screamed as loud as I could, but there was no one to hear me. When the first light of dawn finally broke through the fog, I was found sitting between the graves, frozen, staring into nothing. I couldn't speak. The staff said every grave around me had been freshly disturbed. Some were completely open, soil overturned. No explanation. No one else had been there. Even now, if I pass that cemetery at night, I hear the footsteps, the whispers. Sometimes I see shadows moving. Sometimes a shovel digging itself out of the soil. I don't know what I saw, and I don't think anyone would believe me. But if you ever work alone in a cemetery, don't ignore the silence. Don't ignore the shadows. Don't ever walk where the dead are awake. That's my story. I still work there sometimes, but never alone. Never past the first fog rolling in. Because once you hear the whispers, once you see the shadows, nothing will ever feel safe again. If these stories have already given you chills, hit that like button and subscribe now. Don't miss the next story. It will scare you even more. Hi, Dan. My name is Marcus, and I've been working night shifts for a while now. Usually it's just routine, nothing too exciting. But what I'm about to tell you, it's something I'll never forget. I work as a security guard in a rundown industrial area on the edge of the city. Old warehouses, empty lots, a few streetlights flickering at best. The kind of place that feels deserted even during the day. Alone at night, it's different. Most nights are dull. I walk the perimeter, check the doors, monitor the cameras, but there are nights when you start feeling that something is just off. That night started like any other. I arrived at the small security office, punched in my time card, and started reviewing the CCTV feeds. The hum of the old fluorescent lights above, the faint buzz of a malfunctioning heater. It was quiet. Too quiet. I began my rounds. The warehouses stood like empty tombs, their metal siding rusted and peeling. I checked the doors, one by one, rattling each handle. Everything seemed normal. But then I noticed something strange on the cameras. A figure, standing still at the edge of the lot, far from any streetlight. At first, I thought it was a homeless person. But the feed showed the figure moving from camera to camera with uncanny speed, appearing in places it shouldn't be. I grabbed my flashlight and walked outside, trying to get a clear look. Nothing. The lot was empty. My heart started racing. I told myself it was just a trick of the light, a shadow, a passing animal. But then I heard it. Footsteps, soft, deliberate, approaching from behind one of the warehouses. I spun around, empty. My flashlight swept across the yard, illuminating piles of discarded crates, broken pallets, and shadows that seemed to shift unnaturally. I kept moving, checking doors, trying to stay calm. But the footsteps didn't stop. They followed me, always just out of sight. I returned to the office to monitor the cameras again. On one of the feeds, I saw the figure standing right behind the building. Impossible, because I had just checked that area. My stomach sank. I grabbed the radio and tried to call my supervisor, but there was no response. Static. Just static. I decided to do another round. This time, I noticed the lights flickering more violently, casting long, sharp shadows across the lot. The wind picked up, carrying the smell of rust and damp concrete. And then I saw movement in the corner of my eye, a warehouse door slowly creaking open. I hadn't touched it. I froze. The door opened wider, revealing darkness beyond, thicker than the night outside. I took a cautious step forward. Then a voice whispered my name, low, dry, almost like it was coming from inside the shadows themselves. Marcus. I spun around. Nothing. My flashlight flickered and went out for a brief second. When it came back on, the door was closed. I laughed nervously, telling myself I was imagining things. But my gut screamed at me. Something was there, watching, waiting. I continued my rounds, but the feeling of being followed never left. Shadows seemed to stretch toward me from the corners of the warehouses, the piles of debris. Sometimes I caught glimpses of movement in my peripheral vision. Dark, human-shaped silhouettes that vanished when I looked directly. At one point, I walked past an old shipping container. The sound of metal scraping against metal made me jump. I shone my flashlight inside, empty. But the container door slowly swung shut on its own. My hand froze on the handle. I told myself to calm down. It's just the wind, Marcus. Calm down. But then I saw something impossible. A figure crouched near one of the abandoned pallets. Its eyes glowed faintly in the dark. Its movements were jerky, unnatural, almost like it wasn't moving with its own will. I shouted, but it didn't respond. It just stared. Then, as if noticing me, it vanished, just gone. The rest of the night was a blur. Every time I checked the cameras, I saw the figure in a new location, always watching, always silent. I tried to leave, but every exit I approached seemed to lead me back into the lot. Shadows clung to me, brushing against my arms like they were alive. The static in the radios intensified, voices whispering in languages I didn't understand, low and guttural. By the time dawn started breaking over the horizon, I was shaking, soaked in sweat, sitting against a shipping container, flashlight dead beside me. The lot was empty again. No sign of the figure, no explanation. I couldn't tell anyone what happened that night. They wouldn't believe me. But I never returned to that post alone, and I never stayed past the first sign of fog rolling in. Even now, if I walk past that industrial area at night, I can feel it. The shadows following, the whispers, the sense that someone or something is watching. I don't know what I saw, and I don't think anyone would believe me. But if you ever work nights alone, be careful. The darkness hides more than just empty spaces. And sometimes, whatever is hiding there watches you back. If these stories already gave you chills, like and subscribe now. Don't miss the next story. It will scare you even more. Hi, Dan. I have a story to tell you. My name's Daniel, and I've been a night security guard at an old factory on the outskirts of town for a few years now. It's a huge, abandoned-looking place with rusted metal siding, broken windows, and an eerie feeling that you can't shake. During the day, it looks just like a neglected building, but at night, it's different. Something in the air changes. The factory used to be a major industrial site decades ago. There were accidents, fires, and a few unexplained deaths during its operation. People in town still talk about it, but nobody wants to go near it. That's why they hire me. I check the perimeter, make sure no trespassers get in, and report anything unusual. Most nights are boring, but some nights, I wish I'd never been hired. I remember one night in particular. The fog had rolled in thick, and the streetlights outside flickered weakly. I was walking my usual rounds when I heard it, a low metallic scraping. I froze. The sound came from deep inside the factory, from a corridor that hasn't been used in decades. I called out, but no one answered. Just the echo of my own voice bouncing off the walls. I turned on my flashlight and slowly stepped inside. The air smelled of rust, oil, and something old. I noticed old machinery, broken and silent, but the shadows between them seemed to move. My flashlight caught glimpses of shapes that weren't there a second before. I told myself it was the fog, my imagination. But then I saw it. A figure, pale, standing at the end of a corridor. Its face, I can't describe it properly. Empty eyes, expressionless, yet somehow staring straight into me. I shouted, but it didn't move. Then as I blinked, it vanished, just gone. The echo of my own breath felt deafening. That's when I realized The factory itself felt alive. Every step I took seemed to reverberate differently. The floorboards groaned as if protesting. Shadows stretched unnaturally. The smell of rust turned almost sour, like something decaying. Since that night, things have changed. Other guards report similar experiences, strange sounds, glimpses of figures, machinery moving slightly on its own, doors that were locked open by themselves. The employees who come in during the day sometimes say they feel watched, like something from the past is still lingering. Even the equipment seems stubborn, resistant, almost like it remembers the accidents and the lives lost here. I've learned to trust my instincts. When the air gets heavy, when the shadows feel too thick, I know it's time to move carefully. I avoid certain corridors at night. I never go into the main machinery hall alone. I've seen colleagues quit because the feeling of being watched, of not being alone in that factory, became too much. Sometimes, when I leave the building and walk past the old loading docks, I can still hear faint echoes of the past. Metal scraping, footsteps that aren't mine, faint whispers. And I remember what happened here decades ago. People died, accidents happened, some were never explained. And now their presence lingers. Even today, the factory isn't just a building, it's a reminder of what's been lost, what's been hidden. And I've realized, no matter how rational you try to be, some places carry memories. Memories that affect anyone who steps inside. That factory, it doesn't forgive, and it doesn't forget. Thank you for staying until the end. Your support keeps these stories alive in the dark. If you enjoyed it, leave a like, share it, and subscribe for more chilling tales. And remember, some stories never end.